friendly neighborhood old soldier coming at you today. Sinuses are still draining. Other than that, I feel okay. Mrs. is still under the weather with this Chinese bioweapon. And our daughter and son-in-law and grandson up in Washington State have got it now. I guess we sent it to them osmosis. I don't know. Anyways, for you, Brother Kyle. Thought I'd check in, make sure to let you folks know that I hadn't dropped dead yet. That we're just plugging along, trying to get along day by day. And for all those that didn't think that I wore this to work in, you can see the sweat stains now. Won't wear it just for show. But gotta take some garbage off to the dump, get that squared away, and whatnot. And before anybody asks, yes, I've been drinking water. Okay, but I've been out cutting grass today and tidying up. And got to do range maintenance tomorrow and prepare some targets, things of that nature. Start looking at how I want to establish lanes. We actually get the business stood up and start posting more videos on the other channel. But anyway, saw where Liz Cheney got dumped. About time. We need to put all those liberals that are in conservative clothing, if you will, on notice that they're next. For this state, it'd be Tom Tillis and Richard Burr. Need to get ready to send them packing. But I was glad to see the people of Wyoming drop her like a hot potato. Now, if we can just clean out the rest of them fools up there in Congress, maybe we can get a crowd up there that'll actually institute term limits. And who knows, maybe one day we can get a working class individual in the White House. Just saying. I would dare say the last president that even remotely resembled that to some extent would have been Dwight Eisenhower and Harry Truman. Some of you could argue Jimmy Carter. I won't take that away. Jimmy Carter was not a good president. I don't think too many of you argue that point. But he did grow up in a rural, southern area. I imagine a hard day's work was not unknown to him growing up, from what I understand. But he didn't he didn't really grow up poor per se. His daddy was a pretty successful farmer. Whereas from what I understand about Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower, they both grew up just above the poverty line. For Dwight Eisenhower, if he wouldn't have gotten in the military academy, who knows how his life would have turned out. His parents could not afford to have sent him to college. When he hurt his knee as a child, the doctor wanted to take it off, his leg off. He made his brother stand guard out the door to keep that from happening. I wonder how many of y'all knew that. But my point being is, we need somebody, I think, that's a blue-collar background to be our next president. Here in North Carolina, we've got a lieutenant governor that's blue-collar background. Very blue-collar. I'm praying and hoping he beats the pants off of his opponent in the upcoming gubernatorial race in a couple years. I really do. And I hope he breaks the political machine in North Carolina, both parties. The man doesn't take crap, and I admire him for it. But yeah, I just want to touch base with folks. Talk a little about the whole, Liz Cheney being basically thrown out, which I'm glad to see, because never a fan of her daddy. Still not. But only time's going to tell, folks, because now they've signed that bill. The president signed that reduce inflation bill. Anybody with any common sense is going to tell you all that's going to do is put us deeper in debt and increase the amount of inflation that we're already seeing. But that's communism's answer to everything, is spend more money that you don't have. But when they're trying to take over a country, that's the first thing they want to try and do is wreck the economy. If you don't believe it, just go back and look what happened in Venezuela. Go back and look what happened in Venezuela. Okay? Communist socialists got in. They started spending the national treasury left and right. And if y'all hold that thought. Alright, folks, I'm back. I had to stop. Put the garbage in the container. But yeah, this Reduce Inflation Act. Communists are hell-bent, boys and girls, to collapse our economy before the next election. So what we better pray and hope for is this coming election, be it there's no major discrepancies, that conservative powers retake the House and the Senate, and they repeal this act. But like I said, Venezuela is a classic example of what happens when the socialist communists get into power. First thing that man did, went down there and spent the entire national treasury damn near on stupid crap. Don't believe me? Go back and look at history. If you really want to see it in effect, go to California, where they spend money on everything but what they need to spend it on. Okay? Instead of spending money on building better jails and hiring more jailers, let's spend money on giving drug addicts clean needles and a whole bunch of stuff like that, even though they're not going to come and put them in the proper disposal receptacles. No, they're just going to toss them on the ground and come back and ask for more. Go back to the ancient days of Greece and Rome. I think it's Prager University's got a video out on that where it basically talks about that, to where when the people had absolute decision-making power, they voted more of the public's money to the people and resources to the people, to the point that people didn't want to work. So the people that were starting to work decided they were better off not working, and eventually it led to the downfall and the collapse of the Roman Republic and the fall of Greek form of government when it was representative. You see, there's nothing wrong with democratic principles within a republic. Okay? We say that again. There's nothing wrong with democratic principles within a representative republic. But when you have an absolute democracy, what you wind up with is mob rule, and that's almost darn near what happened in Venezuela. They gave all their power to a devout, corrupt socialist communist, who in turn decided later on to start taking people's businesses and property, like a good communist does when they run out of the government's money. Oh, well, you don't need that much property anymore. You don't need that business anymore. The government needs that business, so we're going to take it over. You'll manage it, and we'll pay you a small salary to manage it. Oh, you don't want to manage it? Well, you can go to jail. And they do that just to kind of rub it in the people's faces that we've got the power to do this, and you can't do nothing about it. Well, you can. But when you disarm the population, it's kind of hard for them to stand up. Because the old adage is, who wants to be the first person to take a bullet? It's happening here in this country. Okay? What we need to have happen is another Athens, Tennessee. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and look what happened in Athens, Tennessee shortly after World War II. A group of recently returned veterans didn't like how things were being run. They didn't like the corruption. They didn't like the fact the state was doing anything about it. They took matters into their own hands. And I want to say it happened up around Copper Hill, Copper Basin, Tennessee one time as well. Okay? Where the people, in this case it was the people against the mines. And the mines were basically running the town, and people had enough and fought back. Long story short, is we have become afraid as a people. We have been complacent. We have allowed the power of the federal government to become too much. To the point now we are scared to stand up to the federal government for fear of being imprisoned or killed. And again, it goes back to the old adage, who is willing to take the first bullet? Who is willing to be the first martyr? If we don't do something soon, folks, this current administration is going to spend every dime our Treasury has. I mean, it's already, we're already starting to turn into a third world kangaroo court system. When the FBI, on the whim of the federal government, can go into a former president's residence and raid it, all because this individual is inclining to run again. And they know that if he does, he stands a very good chance of winning the election. And if he wins the election, several sources have let it be known that there will be hell to pay and retribution will come, like the fury of which no one has seen before. I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not, but that's the rumors that are coming out. Y'all think about that for a while. Until then, my friends, stay safe. Keep your eyes open, ears to the ground. Keep your head on a swivel. And I will talk to y'all soon again. This friendly neighborhood old soul travel.